What is up, everybody? So this is picking up right where I left off in the last video. I'm just going to start filming a new video here, but we're going to do the battery relocation in my 96 Accord. So right here we got our battery. I got this, hacked mount that I just bought off of, I think I got it on Amazon for like $8, but I'm sure you could probably buy these anywhere. But yeah, so I don't really like the way it fits, and also I've been planning on relocating the battery as well. I want to get it out of the engine bay just because it takes up a lot of room. I'd like to have a bigger intake over in this area, and we'll also get a little bit more fresh air in. I also could 90 out of the intercooler and have the piping come up here straight and right into there instead of all this mess here. But that's all later down the road, but the battery's got to get moved regardless. I think it definitely needs to go. So there's a couple of connections that I got to make. One being this one right here is currently going to the fuse block, that wire right there. So I need to run a positive to the fuse block. So when the battery's in the back, that'll just be run to the inside because the fuse block has been relocated. So I'm going to do that. And this positive right here goes down to the starter. So that's sort of my main dilemma, is I need to run a new starter wire from the battery because I don't want to run it off of the fuse block because the starter needs a decent amount of amperage. So I think what I'm going to do is run two separate wires. I have a 2 gauge that I'm going to run for the starter all the way from the battery to the starter, and then I have a 4 gauge that I'm going to run from the battery to the fuse block on the inside. And then as far as grounds, there's this factory ground here, but this wire is a little bit thin. So I think I'm going to use this location right here, but I'm just going to run a thicker wire, or maybe I will ground it somewhere else. I'm not really sure as of right now, but once I get the battery out of here, I'll be able to see. But we got to run something off of the trans, a nice big heavy ground, because I'm just going to make a local ground in the back, in the trunk. But you guys will see all of that. So I'm going to quit explaining and go ahead and get this battery pulled out, and we will see if we can find a good spot in the trunk for it. Alright, so I got a light on everything here so you can see. So I got the battery out. I took off the positive. Here's a negative, here's a positive. And I took the tray out. And now I'm just going to go ahead and take off the negative down there on the starter, which is that guy, or not really on the starter, it's more on the trans itself, and this positive off of the starter. And then I'll also take this apart and unroute these wires, and we'll see if we can find a good spot in the trunk. So right here what I have is a bunch of factory sound deadening pieces here. Basically this isn't doing any sound deadening anymore. It's like not rubberized like it once was. It's like brittle plastic. So it just is extra weight. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to peel off whatever I can of this stuff. It's so that the exhaust doesn't like resonate with the body panels and vibrate the car, but I don't really care. We're gonna put a battery right there anyway, so probably not gonna resonate that much with a heavy battery on top of it. It's gonna be bolted to it too, so should be good there. So I'm gonna go ahead and chip the rest of this stuff off, and that way when we drill our holes, we aren't drilling through that crap. So I got what I could of this stuff. I may try to chisel the rest out, but I went ahead and threw the battery in there, and I think that's a good spot where it sits pretty level. The widest part of the trunk is still usable, I guess, and I also have the positive facing as far inwards as possible. So I think that's probably the best spot for it. I can still easily get to it, to charge it, or to jump the car or something like that. Even though to jump the car I'd probably do it in the front. I don't know, we'll see. Probably won't have to jump it. It's pretty good. This battery's been reliable since I got it, but it's a cheap one. But yeah, we're looking good. I think I'm gonna take the battery off and mark the holes where I want that tray to sit. I'm just reusing the stock tray. I mean, I could buy a battery box, but I don't really think it's necessary. I could always beef up this one if I need to. What I might do is, this guy right here is what holds the coolant jug in front. So I was thinking about trying to cut this off somehow cleanly, or maybe drill out all the spot welds. I think that might be what I'll do, is drill out the spot welds. There's 2 here and a couple on the bottom. And then I'll be able to retain that and make some sort of bracket up front to hold the coolant overflow, because I need to have that functioning as well. I forgot about that. So gotta do that, and I'm gonna modify the battery box a little bit so the J-clips or the J-bolts fit it better, and I'll bend the J-bolts too. I'll show you guys that. But yeah, I'm liking where it's sitting. I think that's gonna be pretty good. That's gonna work out for me. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do about the factory carpet. I don't know, I might just leave it out just because it's extra weight. It's not that much, but I may strip the trunk of this car, honestly. I was thinking about it, just for the, remove the weight. It's not too much, but a little bit helps, especially like this stuff here. That definitely helps. Maybe the side panels too. Not really sure. It's a tough balance. Somebody asked me in the last video, or they said maybe if I strip the car, like the whole interior, that it would be faster, and there's no doubt, like it would definitely pick up. But that's kind of, I want to keep it a street car, and I want to keep it like looking relatively stock inside, at least for now. Maybe in the future I might, but for right now at least, I want to keep it looking stock, because I think the whole sleeper build is kind of cool. I mean, if you see a gutted interior, then you know if somebody's trying to go fast, but I think right now it's still sleeper enough. Like the intercooler's visible and it's got wheels on it, but I mean, a lot of people miss the intercooler because it's pretty low, and the angle on it isn't the best. I mean, you can definitely see it, but there's been people that didn't know it was turbo, so pretty cool that it's sleeper like it is. So I'm gonna rock that for a little while before I end up painting it. So I got 4 holes drilled. You could probably see one right here, here, up there, and right here. So I just started out with a small pilot, and then I ended up drilling up to the size that is going to fit this guy right through it. So now our battery tray bolts fit through it. So what I plan on doing is removing some of the paint here, and then I have a bunch of nuts that I found that I'm going to try to basically weld right here. I'm going to center it really good, weld it, one there, and other various ones in all of the other locations, such as here. I mean, I'm gonna have to weld this one kind of on an angle. We'll see how that goes, but I'd like to have them all set up where it's relatively level, and then I can just bolt the battery box into the welded nuts. I guess I should do it from underneath for like a cleaner look, but I don't really feel like laying under the car and welding, so I think welding up to the top will be just as good. Just the battery will sit up a little bit higher, which is fine with me. Maybe we'll even be able to stuff the carpet underneath it or whatever. So yeah, should be pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and get these nuts cleaned up and get this metal cleaned up and find a spot where I'm gonna clamp my welder on to do some welding in here. Alright guys, so I think that I got my settings on the welder set up pretty good. I got some thinner wire. It's a 0.25, so we should be better able to weld thinner sheet metal than the old stuff that I had, which is 0.30. So hopefully it's easier. It was tough to get the wire feed set up right. Hopefully it doesn't jam up on me. It was before, but I think I got it set up right now with all the, the way it's routed and everything. So in here I got these areas that I cleaned up a little area to throw my clamp on, in one of the areas where there was a plug. So I'm ready to tack them in. I have the bolts in them just to align them with the holes there. I ended up pounding this one a little bit with a hammer just to make it line up a little bit straighter so we can bolt straight down. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get some tacks on these, unscrew the bolts, and then weld them in. And yeah, I'll let you guys watch. Alright, so I got this thing mocked up in there. I didn't fully weld it yet. I'll probably show a little, like a couple of clips of that, but like my welding skills are poor. My machine's not set up right or something, or I'm just terrible, but it is what it is. They are welded. I just have trouble with, you know, making nice welds. I need to practice some. But every time I practice, it's a job. So, you know, it is what it is. This thing's pretty good. It's solid. I'm going to throw some more welds on it, but this is going to be great to hold the battery. It's definitely not going to go anywhere. And I like the fitment and everything, so I'm pretty pumped. I think it's coming out really good. So I'm going to go ahead and unbolt it, throw a few more tacks on these nuts just to make sure they're solid in there. Making sure not to set the bottom of the car on fire. I did do that before because I think the bottom underneath it's got like some kind of undercoating. It's right above where the exhaust shield is, but the exhaust shield is on there, so if it does set fire, I can't really get to it. So I ended up just blowing on it and I was able to get it to go out. So I'm just letting everything cool down and then I'll go back in for it and do a few more tacks. So the tray is all bolted down. It's looking pretty good. Let me throw the battery on. Alright, that's pretty awesome. It looks like it's sitting pretty good. I like it right there. And that's going to hold our battery pretty well. So we'll see if we can get the carpet back in here. I threw a coat of primer on all the areas that were bare metal just so they won't rust in here. And yeah, we should be good to go. So now all I gotta do is figure out, I'll probably take this coolant thing off, take the whole thing back off, take that off, and figure out how I'm actually gonna mount it, whatever mechanism I'm gonna use, whether I use that piece that I got or I make some new sort of top bracket that actually, you know, clamps it a little bit nicer. So just at the very least for now, I got this bracket set up. And I actually got it pretty strong. The battery, it's got a little bit of rock, but it's not like, you know, it's definitely not going anywhere. Like I can really try to move it, but it's staying, it's holding its ground now. I took these J bolts, they were more like L bolts to be honest, and I hit them with a hammer and I bent it so that it's up more so it kind of hooks in, and it did the same thing on this side as well. So now this thing should be good to go. It's really solid. I use pliers to tighten down the wing nuts because fingers are enough. So now mainly it's just going to be routing wires. I know that this negative right here, I want to do a chassis ground. So I got to find a good chassis ground, something with low resistance. I don't know if this is good because I know that there's all seam sealer here. I'm not sure if this is held into this by seam sealer. I think most of this is tacks. The floor pan's probably all tack welds. Ideally, it would be best to go to the subframe. I don't know, I guess this is a unibody car. Maybe I could go up to the strut tower over there. That might be a good spot. But I also don't want to compromise the integrity of the strut, but I don't think I will with just running a cable on it. So we'll see what I end up doing. Gotta find out where I'm gonna run that ground, and I'm gonna start to feed the power wire through. Alright, so down in here, I made my new ground. So there's that right off the trans right there. I have a ring terminal, and that runs through this 0 gauge wire here, and I left a good amount of slack in case the motor torques a little bit. And I have a nice clean, no paint, bare metal ground right there with another ring terminal. Both the bolts are nice and tight. And this is some nice wire here. This is some 0 gauge stuff. So we ran this 0 gauge, and we're going to run one more 0 gauge from the battery to the chassis in the back, and that should complete the ground loop for the motor. This is way thicker than factory wire. It's kind of overkill, but at the same time, it's you know, I have it lying around, so might as well make it. It's a nice short run. It's not like it's that heavy since it's so short, so I'm okay with it. And it looks good too. Now that the tray's gone in here, it's so open. I got to figure out a way to mount the coolant reservoir, but it's looking really good over here. I like it a lot. You can see right down to the bottom. So I do think eventually I'll like to run the intercooler piping up through here. But yeah, I'm definitely making progress on this whole battery relocation. So you can see right here I got the positive, the 2 gauge wire that's coming from the trunk, and I wired that all the way up here, and I'm going to put a ring terminal on it and throw it on the starter right here. So I just ran that through the firewall, and it comes in on the inside of the car down there, runs along the floorboard and through the pillar, all the way back next to the rear seat back there. And it comes out over here in the trunk. Hopefully you can see it. But this is our guy right here. So all I gotta do is hook this up onto our battery, and it is fused back there. There's a fuse. Let me get some better light here. There we go. Yeah, so there's a fuse back there, which is good. You want to try to fuse it as close to the battery as possible. That way if the wire shorts out anywhere after the fuse will blow and you won't set your car on fire. So that's good. So we'll set this up right off of the battery there. Once I get some terminals, I think I'm going to order some terminals for it, or go buy some. And yeah, we should be on the home stretch here. Just got to figure out this ground in the back, and then pretty much ready to go. I just got to figure out whether I want to split the 2-gauge wire and go to the fuse block, or run a separate 4-gauge. I'd like the car to have the proper amperage. It's only going to use the 2-gauge when starting the car, so I'm thinking that might be okay to just use it for starting and to also power the fuse block. Since it is a 2-gauge wire, I think it's thick enough. So I might end up just running a splitter off of that and running a little piece of 4-gauge to the fuse block to give that its power. Alright, so I think this is probably where I'm going to leave it off for this video. I'll just go over everything that I got finished up. So I got the power wire here that runs to the front. I'm not sure if the fuse there is actually rated for what kind of amperage a starter is going to pull. So I'm going to have to look into that. I might just try to start it, see if it pops. If it does, I got to get a bigger fuse because I think the wire can definitely handle it. And this guy right here is my ground. I still have to get some battery terminals here so I can bolt these ring terminals on. But that's going to run up there, and I think I'm going to ground it on one of the strut bolts. I'm going to clean up the metal there. That seems to be the most solid part back here of the chassis. So I think that'll be the best ground back here. That being said, we're pretty much done after that back here and up front. I'll show you guys how clean the bay is looking. Looks really awesome with the no battery life. It's really good. I'm loving it. So you can see the nice paint job down there. I'm glad that I painted semi-decent underneath there, because now we can actually see it. But this right here is my ground coming off of the engine block. Like I said before, that's all set. And then I have this guy that I still have to put a ring terminal on. I don't have the right size for this, so I'm going to get a ring terminal for like 2 or 4 gauge, and then I'll be able to put it right on this bolt on the starter, and then should have power to the starter, and all I got to do is split that wire off and run that to the fuse block. So yeah, we're looking pretty good. We are almost done, and mount the coolant reservoir too. But I think you guys get the idea of what I'm trying to do here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and in the next video I'll definitely finish up and I'll show you guys the car running again and all that good stuff. So thanks for watching, and leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want to see more. Definitely got more in store for this car. The coilover should be here very soon, so I'm really stoked about that. It's going to be sick. Peace out.